Hello, friends. So happy to have you here with me today at Radical Joy. If you've been here before, welcome back. If this is your first time with us, well, we're glad you're here. Each Wednesday, I'm here with you talking to myself about things that weigh on my mind and heart, hoping if you're dealing with something similar, well, we can adjust both our perspectives as you listen. The more people I meet and the more places I go, the more I realize how important it is to make people aware of the fact that there is no shame in enjoying the parts of your life that are incredible. It's time for some radical joy, and this week the three fingers pointing back at me are for happy or right. If you're anything like me, you love to be right, which usually implies that you hate to be wrong, right? Exactly. And that's where we're starting today. In the effort to be right, I will often sacrifice much of my own happiness, joy, and the happiness and joy of those around me in an attempt to continue to find a way to be correct. And I am speaking very specifically about me today. I know I have friends that are also similar to this. It's probably a very good reason why we're friends. And it's something that I want to discuss today because I think that it is dangerous for a few reasons. And I just want to sort of like touch around these and sort of investigate how I really feel about this. I find that whenever I talk for however long every Wednesday, that I'll start in one place and I'll meander through it and I'll turn it over and look at it, but I'll usually end up someplace very different. And I can't help loving that. And I think that one of my most effective ways of finding my way through something I see as a shortcoming in myself, not judging it, just observing it and hoping to improve it, whenever we talk about it, that I'll find a way to, if not to the other side of it, to at least make some progress in making it better. Happy or right? Which one do you prefer? Because sometimes you have to choose. Sometimes you do. And I think that having this idea that I am always right, then I can find 14 ways to justify why I'm right, even though on the surface it appears that I'm very incorrect. Let me tell you how I'm right. It exhibits a lot of very specific personality traits that I would no longer care to entertain in my own personality profile. I observe its arrogance, for one. It's saying, well, no, I wasn't wrong. I was just right in this, this, and this. Okay, sure. And then it becomes a question of, well, the things that you didn't get entirely right, James, are you learning more now? And are you accepting that with curiosity and an open heart? Or are you a little bit grumpy because what you said wasn't accepted as 100% correct? I think we all know which one I'm leaning toward here. And knowing that about myself and seeing it when it happens is definitely the right way to go about fixing it moving forward. I want to be teachable. I want to be a learning man, not just a learned man. It's really easy for someone whenever they get just a little bit further on. I continue to make these references like I'm some kind of like silver-haired, wizened, whatever, and I'm grateful to have made it as long as I have. I am so thankful that I got to do as much as I have and will continue doing. And I want to continue doing. And among those do's are learning better. I want to learn more. I want to continue getting better. One of my favorite things I've ever heard one of my favorite people say, I'm really good at being wrong. And I had never heard it phrased in such a way, and it made such an enormous impact on the way that I want to live. This person is always learning from those around him. He is looking at them. You can almost see it processing whenever he has said something that he wanted to know more about, did, and now it's time to figure out what to do with this new information. I love it. You can literally see the blocks of information moving around in his mind as his eyes process on the outside what is happening on the inside of his skull. It's so great. Very intelligent human being and continues to get smarter every year. Why? Because he's really good at being wrong. I want to be good at being wrong. Right now, it's just imperative for me to feel right. And I changed a few of those words on very much purpose. Thank you, syntax. I want to be right is very different than I want to be good at being wrong. Now I'm mad at myself because I made that distinction and now I can't remember exactly the way that I said it, but I know that the verbs were different. One is being very good at wrong means being open to what will come next as far as the knowledge and the wisdom that are about to be imparted on me as correct or to add to the correct in my original assertion and will work in tandem with what I said to make it more correct, to make it more precise. Great. That is being good at being wrong versus I want to be right. There's no learning in that. There's not a great verb in that. There's not a very active verb in that. Wanting feels very sedate, feels very sedentary to me. I want that. Well, great. Wanting does not imply action, it implies a feeling. I want to learn to be better at being wrong. Learn. Active. I am taking steps. I am not just wishing for it. I am making this happen through my own ability and my own desire. And I'm putting steps with it, putting it on its feet to make sure that it's not just, oh, I wish. No. Beggars, horses, etc., etc. No, this is me, a grown man, putting this on my list and taking steps, small, consistent, or larger, more aggressive steps in accepting when I am wrong and looking for the correct answer so I can be better at being wrong and be more right. Yeah. Because I think there's a lot of joy in learning more, especially about the things that you love and the periphery. It's not just the topic, it's also the things that relate to the topic that make the topic so interesting or colorful or even possible at all. And I think all these are really important to keep in mind and work to integrate into my personality personally. I do. I've had several friends, colleagues, coworkers, superiors in organizations that have mentioned this, like, you have a great attitude. You are this thing and that thing and positive, 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 gold star situation. You insist on being right. And I was like, well, to be fair, often I am, which again, terrible, terrible attitude despite its accuracy. Oh, no. Ugh. I do. I like being right. I like being perceived as intelligent and knowledgeable and helpful. All of these things that come along with being right often because you start to develop a reputation that builds into a trust that when you are asked a question that the answer you give is correct. I have many friends in my life that are very intelligent. Some are much more knowledgeable on topics than I. And whenever we start talking about them, they'll start talking about things, and it almost hurts to listen because there are acronyms and terminologies and things that I am not familiar with that will just go sailing over my head. And it seems almost frustrating for them to have to slow down to catch me up to speed. I hate that feeling. I absolutely loathe and detest it. It is my least favorite feeling. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And if one wants to learn, one must risk upsetting one's teacher or instructor, if that's what the way you want to look at this person who's talking with you about something they know much more about, and being willing to pump the brakes on them for a second, to trust them to be okay with you doing that so that you can be more active in the conversation. They're telling you this for a reason. They want you to know and understand the concepts. So the thing that I continue to tell myself is, if they were telling me about this in the first place and they've said something I don't understand, do I interrupt the conversation, ask them to explain what they just said so that I can understand it better? The answer here is yes. Or do I let them continue and hope that the information they give in context clues will eventually turn into something that I can apply to what they've just said to make heads or tails of it? No, please don't do that. Please, that is not the correct answer here. And yet, which one of these two choices do you think the guy who thinks he's smart choose almost every time? Yeah, exactly. I want to do better. I want to do better because I want to be more knowledgeable. I want to not just be right. I want to be right with, is authority the right word? Authoritatively right? That seems a little aggressive. I want to be so right that there is nothing in there that can be even perceived as incorrect. And in order to do that, initially, I have to be wrong. I got to accept it. And knowing that doesn't make me less, it doesn't make me weaker, it doesn't make me less intelligent. What it makes me is more willing to learn, because I am able to learn as long as I see this as a learning opportunity and not another opportunity to showcase how right I can be. It also wears. It wears on me because I know that that's not always the truth, and telling or living in anything other than your truth can be very exhausting. And so, in order to live better, I want to continue to be teachable. And in doing so, I want to be happier, because knowing more about any topic is going to make me happier. It's going to bring me more joy. It's going to round out, flesh out my knowledge on certain topics, because I was smart enough to let someone know when I didn't understand what they were talking about, or was able to concede whenever someone knew more about a topic than I do or did, and then requested and listened attentively when someone wanted to fill in the gaps of my education. Think about how wonderful that is. Think about how much farther we could all be if we all just kind of took that mentality instead. I don't know much about this. I would like to. So I will ask someone I know who does know more about this. Also, be careful with this one, because you're not always certain that your sources are going to be the ones who are the authorities either. Not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm just saying that because I know this about myself, I also have people in my life that are very similar as well. And so you have to be really careful, because they can also be very convincing in their portrayal of what they know. I know this because I've done this. Hey, the guilty, the game sees game. Like, all right, I see you. And we all need to work at it. If this is something we deal with, this is definitely something that needs our attention, because there's so much more to be learned. Gosh, I never fail to marvel at the simple quantity of amazing there is in the world. And if you get somewhat saturated with one, start to feel a little inundated with how much amazing is one place where you focused a lot of your attention, you can take a quarter turn and find something that may turn into something just as amazing, if not more so. And the fact that we get upset about one or two little instances whenever we think someone else knows more than we do, or someone calls into question something that we've said, it's frustrating. It can be, especially if you're used to being seen as the authority on certain topics, or, just the intelligent one in the group. You know, that's a hat that needs to be passed around. That's not the crown that needs to sit on the head forever. It's important that everyone takes their turn at being the smart one. Even the folks that even the folks whose homework you wouldn't copy in high school know something valuable and can share it with you because you don't know it yet. And I think that's important to keep in mind all the time. Sometimes I come across these amazing people that love to chatter, and I can't point a finger at anybody for that because everyone here knows that I must breathe through my eyelids for as much as I talk in a day. And you can start to smell the BS that's kind of like starting to pile around your feet. And they continue to prattle. Next thing you know, it's up past your shins. Chat, chat, chat. Uh-oh, we made it up to a thigh. Don't let false academics steer you on the wrong path. A great storyteller is always a joy. Oh, I love it. As long as we understand that this is fiction for entertainment and not fact to be applied and administered in real life. That's crucial. It is. And it's hard to know sometimes. A lot of times it is. And so, in an effort to continue learning, improving, expanding our knowledge base, those kinds of things, I want to learn to be better at being wrong so that I can be right. I don't know. I feel as though for whatever reason I was just moved to speak on this one today just because I continue to run into people who are amazing people, so incredibly talented, gifted, intelligent, hardworking. The list of accolades continues to roll. And then you see something like this in their personality, you're like, okay. And I namaste that because the personality trait I see in you, I also have in myself. Like, hey, yep, I see that. And I can recognize it, and I can also tell you that I promise you I'm working on mine as well. It's not accusatory, it's like, okay, got it. I know what you're dealing with. I continue to struggle. I'm working toward it. Good. And also, until you get back on your own track, it's probably me over here in the corner, not necessarily listening to a lot of the things you have to offer. Again, respectfully, kindly, please don't take offense to these kinds of things. I promise I offer them in as kind a light as we can on such a harsh topic. Everyone wants to be listened to. Everyone wants to be heard, seen, visible, and some so much more than others. Great. Okay. There are many ways to do that. One of the things that I received a compliment this weekend, and I'm very grateful for it. A young man told me that I was a really good listener. Theology student. He had a lot to say on a lot of topics. And honestly, I really enjoyed listening to what he had to share. It was not at all what I expected. It was very open. It was very loving, very free. I did not hear discussion of hellfire or brimstone at any point in the conversation. And I really enjoyed it. And I wanted to make sure that he had all the space in the world to tell it exactly as he wanted without interruption. And then when it was my turn, I had a feeling he would let me in. No, he would make sure that I got the signal so that if I wanted to offer anything to the conversation that I could. And I've worked so hard on my listening. I can talk. My listening needed development. People need to be heard. People feel more valued and loved and appreciated when they are heard and they feel as though they are heard. It's like, okay. And also, it's a little arrogant on my part to think that a certain person or group of people or what have you have nothing to teach me. That I have reached such a level that this whomever has nothing important to teach me. Arrogant, misled, hugely. Just so we're clear on that topic. Being wrong isn't the big, bad, ugly that we used to think of it. Back in school, I know that if you were wrong, it was like the end of the world. You know, it was ding on the report card or stuck in the corner or, you know, isolation during nap time. And I think what we need to continue to do is focus on the fact that we learn the most in error. The way I learn the most, the way that I'm almost always the very best at finding a topic, figuring out what I want to know about it, studying about it, you know, talking with others about it. In conversation, I will almost inevitably slip up, say something not exactly right or something I've attached to another thing in my brain, but in reality has nothing to do with the topic at hand. And then someone will kindly, hopefully, call me out on it, like, well, that's not exactly it. I see where you're going with that. I see the connection that you've made there, and that's really cool. And it's not entirely right. So let me set that straight for you. Not a criticism. Okay. That's not somebody trying to make me look bad. That's not someone trying to show off for others around them all the time. I'm not going to say this is, 100% fail safe or foolproof. What I am going to say is it's always so much better to leave yourself open for room to grow and learn more. And in order to do that, most effectively, in my esteemed opinion, is to allow yourself to be wrong. I can tell you right now, there have been tests that I've taken in high school that I still remember the answers to however many years later because I got it wrong. And I was so just hell bent on getting 100%, getting everything exactly right, perfect, whatever, for whatever reason, that when I didn't, it haunted me. I don't want to be haunted. I want to be smarter. And you see how a very small tweak can make that happen? By simply allowing the wrong, by simply inviting it in so that I can learn from the mistake once I make it, great. Had this conversation with a young man last night on the plane back to Sydney. Being wrong isn't a problem. It's the things that you mess up are the lessons that stay with you forever. He's like, I would have loved to have missed that lesson. I would have loved to have been smart enough to just sidestep it when people told me if I do X, then Y will occur. Sure enough, I X'd and got Y'd hard. I was like, okay, yeah. And he says, but those are also lessons that I wanted to learn on my own. I knew the consequences. I was willing to accept them and did because they came and I took them. That in itself is one of the most valuable lessons you can learn, as long as it's not one that alters the course of your life drastically. Just did a series episode called The Impact That You Have on Others. That was our topic. And though stuff that I said in that, as far as like, every action that you have impacts the lives of those around you, great. But also knowing exactly how much or how little that impact makes is important. Because if you learn by making huge mistakes, those can be lessons that will alter the trajectory of your life and not always for the most positive outcomes. And I can't help feeling as though insisting on being right isn't as immediate, but I think that it definitely wears on a friendship, on a relationship. Because if one person is always right, by implication, that means the other person either doesn't know as much or is wrong if their opinion on what is different. And that can come across really unattractive. I don't love stickers, but that really can. And I'm saying that because I know that I've lived through it being that guy and being called out for it. Gotcha. Heard. Okay. And at this point in my life, what I want more than anything is to be happy. That's what I want. That is the top of my wish list. I just want to be happy. And sometimes, in order to do that, you have to let go of things that simply do not matter. And being right is one of them. Also, you need to think about right to whom. To whom am I right? Wait, okay, you lost me there, Bullard. Great. When I say something that I think is correct and someone agrees with me, who is that person? Who or what are they in my life? Do they have anything to gain from me being incorrect but thinking I am, in fact, correct? There's so many interesting topics that surround this. What I do want to do is continue to think about these things very, very deeply, because I think that the more willing you are to kindly correct and or augment a person's story or idea in order to make it more correct, I think that's a really good way to go for all of us. I don't want to be the guy who gets stuck as the know-it-all. I had a woman ask me one time, she's like, "Does it hurt?" I'm like, "What do you mean, does it hurt?" "To know everything. Your brain must just be in constant pain." I was like, oh, that's where that was going. Okay, yeah. It it doesn't reflect well. It just doesn't. Being teachable is a wonderful quality and trait. We don't love labels like good or bad. I can't see a downside to being more easily teachable and more willing to be called out for being incorrect so that you can find it, fix it, and move forward with the correction. Yeah, exactly that. And like I said earlier, I'd so much rather be happy. Right is for folks who haven't grown into their full person. Maybe they're a little insecure there, meaning maybe I'm a little insecure, and what I would like to do is grow beyond that, so I am no longer insecure, so that insecurity falls off to the wayside, and I can be teachable again, I can be humble, I can be focusable. They can literally point me in a direction and say, "Okay, go there, do this, and you will learn what it is we've been trying to talk about," or, "This is a practical application of said concept that we've already discussed." I love that, and I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that continues to work at it instead of insisting on being right and getting his panties in a wad when he isn't, and very clearly called out for doing something that he knows not quite enough about to be speaking as loudly as he is. All me. All me. That when that situation gets called out, and hopefully it will, that it will give me pause to think about what I said was wrong, how I can glean the correct information, and then continue back to my loud and obnoxious tirade about things that I know, and this is something I just learned. Right? Exactly. So if I have to choose between happy or right, give me happy. Please give me happy. And let me know that because I've chosen happy, I won't be right all the time when I'm not. Please give me the humility to look to someone who does know so they can share it with me. And that way I can learn and be better, bigger, stronger, all the things I hope to be. This is day 4 without coffee. Just so you guys know what's going on out there. It's an interesting feeling. It is. It's one of those things where I am not nearly as laser sharp focused as I think I have been in the past. I think that is also something that will return once I have been away from coffee a little bit longer. Happy or right? Which one is most important to you? As always, thank you so much for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to have you here. If this is your first episode, welcome. We're thrilled you're here. If this is not your first episode, thank you so much for coming back. It's wonderful to have you. A lot of times it's going to be just me here talking to myself about all these things that weigh on my heart and mind. If you get the chance, we'd love it if you could review the podcast. I'll be happy to send you a sticker. All in all, just always happy to have you here. Always happy to be dumping my guts on the table with people that I know, love, and trust, even if we've never met in real life. Have a wonderful week. Love y'all. The bottom line is, use your words, friends. Thank you for joining us again in this moment of radical joy. If this is your first time, we're so happy you're here. Take a moment to check out our archive. See if there's something else that fires you up, rekindles the joy in you. And hey, spread the word if you enjoyed it. We welcome reviews and messages. Let me know what you want to talk about. I rarely run out of things to say. So if there's something on your mind or heart, I want to hear from you. Don't forget, there is no shame in joy. I am not a therapist or a medical professional. If you're experiencing a mental health emergency, please call 911. This content and other content produced by CLW Studios and affiliated partners is not therapy, and nothing in this content indicates a therapeutic relationship. Any opinions of guests on this podcast are their own and do not represent the opinions of James or CLW Studios. Please consult with your therapist or seek one in your area if you're experiencing mental health symptoms. Anything in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Learn more about James and CLW Studios. Follow the link in the show notes. Don't forget to leave a review, and hey, we'll send you a sticker. Just send a screenshot and let us know where you want it sent. Have a great week, and we will see you next Wednesday for another dose of radical joy. Love y'all.